All right, my friends, welcome back to another book review. I am Cam Williamson, and we are talking about It Starts With Us. I literally just finished my review of It Ends With Us. I feel like the shackles are off. Guys, if you watch these book reviews, you know I give all the spoilers. I'm telling everything. I'm talking about everything. It was hard in the It Ends With Us review to not say too much because I have already read this. Guys, I love this series. I think it's important. I talked about it in the first video. It is important for domestic violence awareness. I'm glad that it made its way to Book Talk. I am glad that I am not the usual demographic of these books. As pointed out by cashiers at Books A Million, everyone who sees me read these books, I get it. I'm a man, and I read romance novels commonly read by women. Can we all get over it now? All right, here we are. It Starts With Us. We are back with Lily Bloom, Atlas, Ryle, Alyssa, Marshall. This time we've got a young man named Josh, who we'll get to. We have a young man named Theo, who we'll get to. We have some small reoccurring characters that I did not mention in the first book, which are some of Atlas's friends. One in particular, Darren, I believe was his name. And we are life post-abuse. So let me catch you up. In the first book, we have Lily Bloom, who was a young teenager who found a young man named Atlas living homeless in an abandoned house across the way. She helps him as the winter gets cold. She brings him blankets. She brings him food. She lets him eventually shower in her home. They start to snuggle together. They fall in love. Atlas is homeless. He decides he's going to go live with his uncle in Boston, where he will be able to live with family. Though they love each other, they decide that's what's best. He promises her, Lily, when my life is good enough for you, I'll come back. I'll find you. Okay? The first book, Lily meets a man named Ryle. He's very intense. He doesn't want a relationship. He just wants to have sex. And he says, I don't do this. He's a neurosurgeon. I don't do the relationship thing. I'm too busy. But, man, I really want to have sex with you. Eventually, he ends up, in a sense, being ingrained in her life. Lily's hires Ryle's sister, unknowingly, Alyssa, who becomes her best friend. So Ryle becomes around a lot, and there's a lot of confrontation. As the story builds, Atlas and Lily find each other again. I'm kind of reviewing It Ends With Us. I don't need to do that again. Sorry. So It Starts With Us, picks up. Ryle is now aware that Lily and Atlas are at least a potential thing, and they are trying to navigate post-baby being born. So Ryle is still in full idea that he may get Lily back if he behaves himself long enough, that there's these boxes he may be able to check. He thinks that there's still some ownership over Lily. He asks her inappropriate questions during child visitations. Again, we still have some toxicity in the way of Alyssa being supportive of her brother, letting him be around, but still being best friends with Lily. I didn't like that, but they came to a close very quickly with that. Alyssa confronts her brother and says, look, we know what you did. We all know what you did, and we're not going to help you anymore intimidate her. And it was really important because Marshall, Ryle's best friend and Alyssa's husband, who's usually very quiet, finally says something to Ryle. Like, he says something smart to Lily, and he goes, well, what are you talking about? The time you threw her down the stairs? Or the time you hit her? Or the time you did this? And it completely shuts down the fact that Ryle has this family around him that's going to help him in any way go against Lily or help her in a custody battle. That is Lily's number one concern throughout the book, is trying to appease Ryle and keep his temperament at bay while trying to build her new life, because she doesn't want any blow-ups on their end to turn into a court battle that she fears she could lose because she never pressed charges on Ryle for abuse. There's one incident where they get into a heated altercation, and Ryle grabs her by the throat and shoves her up against a door. And that's when Lily knows, oh God, he hasn't changed, And even now that the baby's been born, he's still capable of this. Because there was a few times where they had conversations, he started to heat up and he backed away. So you thought maybe he had actually worked on some of this, or not that it would have mattered. I don't think anyone was pulling for Ryle and Lily to be together. You're pulling so hard for Atlas and Lily. And so let me touch on Atlas's part, because I've been completely not talking about that. Atlas is a chef. He has an issue at the start of the book where someone keeps vandalizing his 2 restaurants. He finds out it's a young kid. He's stealing food, so he doesn't want to press charges because he obviously relates to being homeless and stealing food. Push come to shove, finds out it's Atlas's brother. It's his 12-year-old brother that he never knew about. His stepfather, who had essentially kicked him out when he was a kid, got his mother pregnant. They had this kid. They didn't know about it. The parents lied to the young boy and said that his brother didn't care about him, ran away, ran off on him. And so he resented him. And so he started writing the word asshole on his stuff, breaking into his restaurants, whatever. Atlas catches him and he tries to help him. He tries to bring him up. He tries to help him navigate, what are we going to do next? Atlas's mom is in the picture saying, give me back the kid. They're trying to take me to jail for truancy. She's just so self-involved. Everything about the kids is how they're used for her or how she sacrificed for them. And she's so delusional, it's upsetting. Atlas tries to be a good example for Josh, is his brother. And Atlas talks to a 12-year-old boy who is his best friend Darren's son, and he calls him his therapist. And he tells him about all the engagements with Lily. So in the beginning of the book, it starts with them just slowly talking again, because that's where it ends with us, is they're just kind of talking again because things are so freshly broken off between her and Ryle. And everyone knows that was the issue in the marriage, was Atlas, because Ryle got mad after he found everything's better in Boston magnet, found her number between the phone. Everything was Ryle knowing she had been in love with a man named Atlas and he was back in her life. After, Ryle was the one who never wanted a relationship, never wanted anything, but once he decided he had to possess Lily, then he wanted to go and elope, and again, she was a possession at that point. So he would become overwhelmed by rage and jealousy and strike her. Towards the end of It Ends With Us, Ryle admits to Lily that the story he tells at the beginning of It Ends With Us about a boy shooting his brother and killing him with a gun that he thought was fake was actually Ryle's story. He shot and killed his brother, or him and Alyssa's brother, when they were young, thinking he was playing with a toy gun, and that's where apparently this blackout rage comes from, is his trauma trying to deal with that. So again, Colleen Hoover does a good job of giving you the context of kind of why Ryle is the way he is, while also giving you absolutely no sympathy towards him. You feel empathy, you understand some of it, but in no way is it okay. So Atlas just is there. This book is exactly what we all wanted it to be in the end. It's Atlas being there for Lily, being the literal ride or die support. I'm just here. I'm not trying to push myself on you. I'm not trying to pull away from you. I'm here for whatever you need me to be. This book series is crucial, I think, for women to read in case they ever find themselves, or a friend finds themselves in the throes of a relationship filled with domestic violence. But this is a very important book series for men to read if you ever find yourself in a relationship with a woman who has ever been a victim of domestic abuse. Because Atlas Kerrigan is the epitome of example. He dealt with marriage. He dealt with divorce. He dealt with abuse. He dealt with keeping responsible distance and boundaries while being supportive, affectionate, and not disvaluing his own thoughts and feelings during this entire thing. That I appreciated from Colleen Hoover. They didn't have to appreciate Atlas's love for Lily throughout this book. They could have completely disregarded it as unimportant. Sure, it would have made the story tough to follow, but when you talk about domestic violence, it is all about helping the victim recover in whatever way that is. So anyone's feelings about them even if it's love, and I've made mistakes on this. I talked about it in the It Ends With Us review. I dated someone who was a victim of domestic abuse in their previous relationship, and I thought that me loving them would be enough to heal them, that I wanted to smother, and how can I help? What can I do? And you do everything wrong. You do everything wrong when you don't know. Now people can know. The book ends, and again, I try not to give every detail because I want you guys to go and read these books. I'm giving you the outlines. I'm giving you the spoilers, sure, and I'm giving you my thoughts on the book. There were little details where Theo, the 12-year-old boy, he admits to Atlas that he's gay, or he thinks he might be. They pretty much say he is. He's attracted to a boy in his school. And then there's this whole developmental thing of Josh. He's kind of a rough around the edges kid. He cusses a lot. He obviously is spray painting buildings. But then him and Theo become best friends. And you think, oh no, what about when he finds out about Theo? And he finally tells him, because my nose always gets itchy when I'm around this fucking microphone. He tells him, he's like, dude, I know. Like, they relate over manga, which is, I guess, anime, what kids call anime today. And he's like, yeah, dude, I see the kind of anime you watch. Like, I know. It's cool. We're homies. And it's just a cool story. It's just a bunch of people finding themselves in the shitty space that life put them. And they navigate it so well. At the end of it, Ryo ends up with very limited time with the baby. He's pretty much put in his place. He tries early on to intimidate Lily with, I'll just take you back to court. And I relate to this. There was a moment when she lies to Ryo and says, I've contacted my attorney about these text messages you sent me. When he found out about Atlas, he sent her some messages like, fucking whore, whatever. She goes, I've told my lawyer about this now, and puts lawyers in the mix for the first time, going like, hey man, don't forget, right? Like, don't get it twisted of what this can be if you want it to go there. And to watch him try to hold this power, I'm a surgeon, I could do this, do you know who whatever. It gave me a sense of pure hatred for the character of Ryo, because it showed you exactly who he was. Sure, in a moment after violence, he may have felt some way of bad about what he had done. But not so much so that if the truth was to come out, he wasn't going to use all his resources and anything he could to cover it up and lie about it and whatever. So you got to see the end, that the right move played out. Ryo was not a good man, and I stand on this and will end the review on this. Anytime domestic violence happens in a relationship, that relationship is done. It's over. It needs to be over. If anyone needs help navigating that, there are plenty of resources, people you can call professionally. I hope you all have a place in your families and in your friend groups that you could talk. If you don't, reading this book may help you. Reading this series could really help someone in that situation navigate it from all angles. The guilt they feel for having to speak their truth about someone they once loved who is now an attacker to them, how to navigate relationships all around, and how to be a good supporter of someone going through a domestic violence relationship. Because again, Atlas covered it so perfectly. And then again, we have the fairy tale ending. Atlas, Lily get married. Ryo is in the car during a drop-off. Marshall drops Emery off to Atlas. They have their first meeting. Hey man, I just want you to know, Marshall saying to Atlas, I just want you to know, I'm really happy that Lily found you, and I'm really happy she has you. Like, you're always cool with me. While he's getting out of Ryo's car, it just means a lot. It's so much closure all in one moment. Like, Ryo is heeding to everyone else's thing of like, dude, you're not a guy for this. You're not the guy for this. Why Marshall still chooses to be his buddy. I don't know. I guess they just didn't want to pour it on too deep onto Ryle. But, I mean, if it was me writing that story, Ryle would have ended up gone. They mentioned that it would have been an easy thing to write off that, Ryle gets a job in some other country and you never see him again. But I think the book needed the closing that it got. That Ryle, begrudgingly, he stayed in the car while Marshall grabs Emery, takes him to Atlas at the day that they're moving into Atlas and Lily's home for the first time, where Emery will be living full-time. It's beautiful. The victim of the abuse wins, and the abuser loses. How often do we actually see that? I give this book 10 out of 10. I give this entire series 10 out of 10. Let me know what we should read next. Let me know what you thought. Love you guys.